I'm going to show you how to make this nice little storage cabinet in a small shop. Stay tuned. So I built this small cabinet out of white melamine. The doors and the sides are MDF primed and painted. And what I really like about this unit is that there's no handles. It's nice and smooth looking. No place for dust to collect. It's in a laundry room. These drawers are what's called tip-on drawers. So you just push to open like so. And they're fully adjustable. The doors also no handles. You just push to open, and there's a little tip-on thing from Blum. You know, again, it's adjustable and it will open the door just by pushing. Blum hinges. And I'll show you in my shop how I built these cabinets. And this is the ideal kind of job for a small shop carpenter. Whether you are just doing it for friends or family, or whether you're doing it for hire, you can handle a small job like this in between other bigger jobs. And it really works out well with basic tools and a small shop. What do you want? What do you want? Want some lunch? Want some lunch? All right, so now that I've got all my carcass panels cut, I've chosen the nicest edge and marked it with T, and that's where I'm going to put tape. On this cabinet, I used the FastCap speed tape and PVC tape, and I found that to be the most efficient system for my small operation here. I did experiment with iron-on edging using a household iron, and also with a General International edge banding machine, which I've since sold because I found that by the time you get the thing set up the way you want, you could probably do most of your edges for a small cabinet with the FastCap speed tape. I like the speed tape because it's quick and efficient, and the PVC edging is superior, in my opinion, than iron-on edging. Extra sandpaper inside the handle. Very handy. All right, so now that I've got my edge banding all complete, I'm going to do the shelf pin holes and the hinge holes. You can see here that I've marked bottom left and bottom right. Now, there's two different systems. One is an older system for shelf pin holes, and it's simply this jig here with a special bit in the drill. Now, this works pretty good. I've done all my kitchen cabinets in the house actually with this system. It's not a true European system, so that you can't really use these shelf pin holes for the hinge holes. Hinge holes need to go 37 millimeters from the edge of the cabinet. So that's one thing this thing doesn't do. But these holes here are at 32 millimeter centers, which is the standard in European cabinet building. I know that Craig makes a little system, and I do own one, and it works well. Over here is Festool system. It's called the LR32. It uses this track with stops, and your panels should be multiples of 32 millimeters in order for this to work properly. And you can use either a Festool 1010 router or a Festool 1400. And it works pretty slick, and you can do both your shelf pin holes and hinge holes all in one shot. What is important with the LR32 system, and actually for any system that you use for line holes, is that you mark the bottom of each panel so you know where you're going to start with your holes. This is particularly important with the LR32, and in fact I normally make my panels in increments of 32 millimeters. So what I'll do is, if I need a 31-inch high base, for example, I'll convert that to the nearest 32 multiple, and then I'll make my cabinets that work off that system. All right, so this tape measure at the top, this is a true 32 from FastCap. You'll note here these little arrows, and they're all at every 32 increment for the entire tape measure. So 800 would be a standard 32 increment cabinet for something in the area of 31.5 inches. You can see on this bottom tape measure. So what I'll do, I'll just use the metric conversion app on my phone, and I'll convert my cabinet sizes over to 32 millimeter increments, and just figure out what the closest dimension is going to be and adjust from there. On a cabinet, you can also make your legs adjustable where the kick plate goes, and that can make up that minuscule difference between the 32 millimeter increment and the dimension that you need for the height of your cabinet. All right, so I've got my panels inserted into these FastCap ass blocks. Yeah, that's what they're called. I'm assuming it means assembly blocks, or short for that. So anyway, I've got my panels, and I've put the edge banded face down into the blocks so that once I screw together the side and top and bottom, I can put the back on without having to move the cabinet. So basically, when I go to put the sides and the top and bottom together, I just use a brad nail, 1.25-inch brad nail, to hold the pieces nice and flush, and then I'll go countersink and screw them together using power head screws from FastCap. I'm giving you some things to try here. And then once that's done, I'll put the back on, and that cabinet will be done. You can see here I've got the little assembly table made up with some sawhorses or drywall bench with a big chunk of 1-inch MDF on there for a real nice sturdy platform, so that if I'm on my workbench, those cabinets are way too high and it's a little hard to do with the cabinets way up here. So I'll just show you how I put this cabinet together. This is basically what the process is. 2 boxes stacked on top of each other. When I get it into the residence, I'm going to put a gable panel that's painted and 45 at the corners, so it'll look nice and neat, and it will cover up these ends. But now I'm just going to prepare for making the drawers, and that will be sort of the next step. And this is how you can tell if you've made your boxes perfectly square, is that they'll line up at the 4 corners. So what I've done, I've just moved my fence over a ½ inch or 13 mils, and that way it's really precise where that dado is going to be. And actually, for the amount of time it takes, I've only got 4 drawers to do. I might just leave my dado stack out of the picture here altogether and just run several passes through to get my ½ inch groove in the drawers. All right, so I've made my drawers to fit the Movento drawer slide system from Blum. And in this case, I'm using a 22-inch drawer slide, and that requires a 22-inch side on my drawer, or 559 millimeters. And you're going to screw through your sides into your front. And how the Movento system works is if you use 5/8 sides, which is the maximum width of a side that you can use for the Movento slider system, you simply subtract 42 millimeters from the inside dimension of your cabinet. And that's how you arrive at this size for your front. Now you can see I've dadoed all the way around. I don't really worry about this dado being visible because I'm going to put a drawer front on this after. All right, so this is what we call the moment of truth. Here we go. And it's messed up. Well, I've taken this apart because I've made a mistake. I think it's a complication of trying to film and work at the same time, and the drawers are pretty much the same dimension, or very close to the same dimension each way. So I'm just going to fill these holes, put it back together the right way, and make the best of it. So if you're going to want the tip-on drawer openers, that is a drawer opener system that opens with just pushing on the drawer, then you're going to want to start with what's called a Movento drawer slide from Blum. And that has the right fittings for a couple of things. You're going to want to make sure that you're coordinating, the left side of the drawer slide, which is marked here, and also left on the components that go with it. So when you go to put this together, you're going to slide this apparatus into these slots. So that slot there will take the end of this. Then you're going to snap that into place like so. Next, you're going to take this, and you'll notice this little divot right here in the bottom of the track. That goes over top of this piece right here, sort of an L-shaped thing, like so. Then you simply slide the whole thing forward and it'll click in place So it's going to look like that after. All right, so that's the left one done. So that'll go on the inside of your cabinet right here. That'll be the cabinet wall. Then you're going to do the right one. And then you're going to take this rod, and as in the instructions show here, you're going to do some mathematics on there. You're going to measure the inside width of your box, and then you're going to subtract 267 millimeters. And what I would suggest, two different suggestions. One is watch the Blummotion video on the tip-on system that's available at the Blum website, and I'll put a link to that in the description. And I would say before you cut this rod, just map it out, put your drawer slide into your cabinet, and just make sure that subtracting 267 will actually work out, and that will give you the confidence before you cut into this fiberglass rod with a hacksaw. And these things here are going to fit into this apparatus here, and it'll be clicked in place. Now, I realize this is going to sound complicated to follow, but it's just one of those things you have to try it once. And then keep your instructions, make little notes, because it seems like every time I do it, I have to really scratch my head over it. All right, let's hope this works. All right, so this tip-on system has an adjuster. I'm going to push this in a little bit because the drawer is sticking out a little bit too much. We'll give that a try. All right, so I've got both these drawers adjusted so they're fairly good. I like that. Push to close, push to open. Same with the bottom. So now to make the doors. So a couple of things I want to mention about track saws. I'm cutting some 3/4 MDF here, and I'll tell you what, it is super heavy. If you're by yourself and you're my age, not a lot of fun to wrestle onto a table saw. So what I'm going to do here is cut it down to manageable sizes before I run them through my table saw down to the finished size for my doors and drawer fronts. One thing I want to mention is when you're doing your sizing, if you're measuring from this side of your sheet, and in this case I'm going 740 millimeters from that side, then you want your track on this side of the line so that you're not losing the thickness of the saw cut. So whatever side you're measuring from, that's where you want to have the fence. And it'll make a difference on what side of the bench you approach your cut. You'll get onto it once you start using a track saw. And one of the things I find is that on a track saw, your blade is on the right side of the motor as you're standing behind it. Conversely, a skill saw or your regular circular saw is the other way around. And this is what I'm talking about here. Here's my circular saw. Blades on the left, track saw, blades on the right. So one of the beauties of using this saw is that I've trained myself to look here to follow my line. With a track saw, of course, you're relying on the track to follow your line, and that's the difference. All right, so both sides look really good. I cut that top miter, or that top panel, just a smidge long, and it worked out right. So with a little sandpaper on the corner, it'll make a perfect miter. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to line up. I've got my center line of my hinge marked on the cabinet. You can see here I've already made lines here corresponding on the door itself. And I'm going to go and drill and install the hinges. I'm going to be using this little Craig jig to install these hinges. Clamps. There we go. There we go. Bob's your uncle. Now I just got to adjust the hinges, and I'll bring that space so that I have about 3 millimeters.
And this is the screw that will move the hinge this way. We'll try that first.
All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use these little plastic grommets with threaded metal insert here, and I'm going to drill some 20 millimeter holes into the back of my drawer front. Then I'm going to insert this marking pin, and I'm going to use that to mark my drawer box so that I drill the hole for these screws in the box in the appropriate place. And the thing I like about this system, as you'll see, is that you're able to adjust the drawer front after this is installed by, a couple of millimeters each way, and it helps for getting your drawer fronts adjusted properly. Alrighty, so here's the tip-on kit that you're going to need for opening a door without a handle on an unsprung Blum hinge. You want to make sure that your piston operates like this, so when you depress it, it'll pop out, and once you push it in, it'll click. You can also adjust the distance that remains out by turning counterclockwise. You're going to end up with a little more distance, a little more sticking out. I guess that's about, well, it looks like about 8 mil or something. But then when you go clockwise, it'll go right down to 1 or 2 mil. So I'm going to leave this one here at about 4 or so, something like that. What you're going to do is really hard to get on film when I'm installing, but you're going to install this plate
don't know if you can see, but there's a little arrow here, and you're going to install that plate with the arrow pointing towards the door. And what I figured out is it's about 6 mil back from the edge of your gable or your top of your cabinet for where you attach this plate. There's also this little plate here that you can attach to the door, and because this thing here is magnetic. There's also the option of using a screw and this round washer.